Are you wanting to build your confidence today? Well, today I'm going to talk about how the power of habit can really, really build your confidence with steps. And I'm going to give you some actionable steps in order for you to enhance your habits, therefore enhance your confidence. And if you stay until the end, I have an extra point for you then as well. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I just want to ask, are you looking to enhance your self-esteem and confidence with every single episode? Well, ensure you're fully in the loop and that you can have valuable insights. Well, if you want to do that, all you got to do is click in the show notes for the link for that essential boost and an exclusive extra tip keeping you confidently ahead. So, what's my story with this? Well, see, I like to share my own self-esteem and confidence journey on this podcast with you. And there's one story from last year that really helped me boost my confidence. Now, I had a rocky year, as I did with 2022. There was a point around April where I hit quite a low. I wasn't feeling so good. I had my end of season football with the guys, and yeah, probably went a little bit overboard with having fun and everything there. And I felt really dreadful the next day. There was also a series of things that were building up, like my dating situation at the time as well, which was difficult, and work, career, business related things as well. They're all kind of adding up. And I found my habits weren't the greatest. And therefore, that was impacting my confidence, my trust in myself, going into different situations with confidence, even though obviously I really like to work on it and I like to share my journey with you. You know, we all have our ups and downs. And what I decided was I want to make a change to this. And then someone was talking about a challenge you may or may not be familiar called 75 Hard. Now, 75 Hard is 75 days consistent of doing a number of pillars. There's about 5 or 6. And these ones typically are no alcohol. They are exercising twice a day, right? They are things like drinking a certain amount of water, a certain diet, and personal growth. And there may have been another one. I kind of made my own version of it. Anyway, I found by just committing to those 75 days, I completed it, and lots of people were impressed because quite a lot of people don't stay on it. And for me, I had a real strong driver. I was like, I want to feel really good. I want to feel good energy. I want to have a good impact on other people. And it was building up to my 10K at the time as well. So that really helped as well because I was training for something physically. And then what I found was my confidence started to rise. It started to really rise because I was doing what I said I was going to do. I was making these little habit changes in my life. And yeah, that kind of reminded me really of how important that habit can be in giving you more confidence by doing what you say you're going to do and by making you feel better as a result. Now, with habits, studies in psychology have shown there's around 40 to 95% of our behavior is unconscious and automatic. So therefore, if we don't start paying attention to it, sometimes it may be good. Sometimes we actually have unconscious or subconscious habits that are actually serving us. Like I catch myself doing some good stuff sometimes naturally. Like I find myself naturally like looking at my numbers and business and finances, and that's a really good habit to do because I'm on top. I'm on top of that, you know, the majority of the time. Or like I find myself naturally wanting to exercise every day because I've ingrained that into me, and that's a really good habit. I also find myself with bad habits, admittedly, like sometimes spending too much time on social media, for example, now and then, just wasting time with things that I shouldn't be, right? So, in order to start changing some of our confidence, I found personally for me that actually changing the habit makes a really big deal. Now we're going to go into some practical points. I'm going to give you some steps because that's kind of how my mind works. I'm very like logical. What are the steps and everything like that? And it's kind of one of the things that annoys me about personal growth. People just say stuff and they won't kind of give you any direction. So we're going to dive into that. I want to ask you this though. how does it serve you? How does it feel sometimes when perhaps you notice yourself into this constant bad behavior and then you feel helpless that you can't change it? Well, I genuinely believe you can change it. And I've been caught in that trap of being like, well, I keep doing this again and again and again. Like in the past, like years ago, it was like, oh, spending too much money or just completely self-sabotaging myself when I was dating or actually maybe bad eating habits and things like that. And I was like completely helpless. I was like, oh, I can't change this. It doesn't do you any favors, right? And then people love a label. People come up with like excuses, oh, this happened to me, so I can't do this. At the end of the day, ask yourself, how does it feel when you're like, I'm not in control of my habits? Because I want to tell you, you are in control of your habits when you pay attention to them and then put some work into them. Because I caught myself in that trap as well, and I changed it around, and it really boosted my confidence. Yes, now and then it's like, I'm slipping off of something because I'm a human being. None of us are perfect, and perfect doesn't exist, by the way. That perfectionism label is absolute BS. There's no such thing as perfectionism because no one could be perfect. But as human beings, anyone could get caught into bad behaviors. It's just about paying attention to it, I believe, and then changing it for the better. I'm going to give you some practical steps now. So the first thing is define where you want to go. Where do you want to go? What do you want to achieve? Because we could talk about what's a good habit, what's a bad habit, but it's got to be completely relevant to you. I've said this before, and I'll use this example. Is watching Netflix a good or bad habit? And people are like, oh, bad habit if you're watching too much of it. Well, let me ask you this. If your job was to sit there and review Netflix all day and write reviews, would that be a bad habit? I would argue no, because you're writing reviews. And obviously, if it's 24/7, that might be a bit of an issue, right? However, if your aim is to go and get fit and like run or train for a marathon and you're spending 8 hours a day watching Netflix, I would argue that's not such a great habit because that's not towards your outcome. So it's really important, I personally find, to actually understand where I'm going. And lots of us are like, oh, it's good habit, bad habit. It's like, where are you going? What are you trying to achieve? So first of all, that's key. And I like to define it in 5 areas. Well, actually, I kind of chop it up to 6 recently. I've chopped it up into 6, but let's go through 6. So the first area is physical health. What do you want for your physical health? Like for me, it's about high energy. Emotionally, what do you want to feel emotionally? For me, like I know I'm not, and again, these are things to move towards, not that I expect to hit them every day, but these are just kind of things I'm striving towards. And it's not about me hitting them, it's about me enjoying the process and the habits along the way. The second thing is I want to feel like a level of love and really connected to my heart as much as possible. Will I feel that 100% of the time? Like I said, absolutely not. Right? I'd love to do, I would love to, but I'm a human being at the end of the day. You know, tough things come in, you know, you may fall out with someone from time to time. So yeah, that's a second one. Then the third thing, spiritually, right? You know, where am I aiming for? Giving, that's all about giving and growing for me. Like what do I want? And I just want to be giving and growing each day. That might just be sharing some value on content and things like that. The fourth one, and this is where I split it, was I used to say relationships for everything, but I say relationships, friends and family. What do you want for your relationships with friends and family? Like close relationships. Like what does that look like? Then the fifth one is romantic relationships. Now I'm currently single as I make this, but I've got an ideal like woman that I'd want in my life. So like I'm moving towards that. And then the sixth one is finance/business/career. Like how much you want to be making, what's your business, what's your career look like, right? And then I've got destinations for all of those things. Okay. And then when I look at those, it's getting clear on those. And it's what's a simple habit I can do for each of those? What is something simple I could do for each of those? Maybe for like, I try not to overcomplicate it, keep it simple so it can be consistent. Maybe for physical health, it is just exercising for 20 minutes a day. Or maybe it's certain guidelines of things I can and can't eat without being too strict on myself. That's an example. If it's like something like business, maybe it's you reach out to a certain amount of people each day about an opportunity to work with them, right? What's a simple habit you could do? and be very honest, something that's going to move you forward, not just busy work. Because I find lots in the entrepreneur space, and I've been guilty of this, is just like doing things because to keep us busy because we're scared of doing the things like actually having sales calls or, um, you know, sharing ourselves on like social media or putting ourselves out there. We start like designing this website in the background. Not that I'm saying that websites are bad, but that's an example. Okay. The third thing is making sure you're setting some habits that are both practical and psychological. And what I mean by that is like, I find we could say mindset. Like mindset is when I say psychology, like obviously this is called the self-esteem and confidence mindset, this podcast. Mindset is only the start though. Mindset is like, I want to change. I'm really going to put it all in. And that's great. That's amazing. Yet your psychology, which is your ongoing thoughts consciously and subconsciously, is really going to make a difference. And I believe you've got to have habits in place, or I've got to have habits in place in order to retrain that. And that's just about the words and pictures in your head. So I like to put in simple habits like visualization before I go to bed every day. And I like to say really strong incantations. They're kind of a stronger version of affirmations, like every day. And I just read out my beliefs. I read out evidence for the belief every single day, get those words and those beliefs into my system, so psychologically. And also I like to have habits that are practical, right? You can say all these amazing things, visualize. If you don't actually take action, things aren't going to change. So for example, you could be like, I'm really popular and people like me, but actually you lack the social confidence. And that's a really great start to psychologically think about that. Yet you don't go out and talk to people, you don't go to social events. That's not going to move you forward. So it's a combination of the both. Doing the psychological work, starts with the mindset and the psychological work, and actually practically doing stuff which may involve you getting out of your comfort zone. You're never going to be ready on a lot of things. You just have to do it anyway. Okay, and then the fourth one, have someone to keep you accountable so you remain consistent. I have a great accountability partner I've mentioned before, Nick. He's an awesome guy. Me and him keep each other accountable for small habits or just bigger habits. I sometimes have a habit of setting too many habits, so I pull myself back a little bit. And then the fifth one is probably the most important thing. Obviously, do the other steps. Praise yourself. Every time you do a habit each day, praise yourself, pat yourself on the back. Or if it's a habit when you're avoiding something or removing something, also pat yourself on the back. Celebrate, get excited, put a smile on your face, celebrate, because that will tell your nervous system to do more of it. You encourage yourself when you praise, you feel good. Clench your fist, put a smile on your face, as silly as it feels. Silly as it feels, do it, because it's really going to reinforce your belief in yourself, and therefore you're going to do more of those habits the more you praise yourself. It's actually silly not to do it. Okay, so I'm going to dive into an extra point as well, but just before that, I wanted to mention, if you want to stay on top of every episode, just hit the link below. Not only will you never miss out, but you'll also receive weekly insights designed to nurture your self-confidence, self-esteem, and mindset. So join us and embark on your journey of personal growth by clicking that link below. Okay, so the final point I want to share is, if you really want to take this further, a great book I'd recommend is a book called Atomic Habits by James Clear. You may or may not have heard of it. It's really about habits. And when I read this book, I felt so empowered. I was like, it's not, I don't have to worry about hitting the goal. All I got to do is worry about hitting, well, not worried. That's probably it's a word that will make you worry, obviously. All I have to do is focus on doing the habits each day. And that was really reassuring to me. So I would recommend you check out that book and read it, maybe even listen to it on Audible. Okay. So that's what I got for you today. I appreciate you for being here. You're improving other people's lives by being the best you. And remember, you're in control of your own self-esteem and confidence.